I'm the author of Honor at Stake, the highest trilogy, because I have a history degree and I hate Dan Brown. Or it's a series of thrillers where it's, okay, here's the proper footnotes, this is legitimate history, and screw you. Dan Brown. Sorry, I really hate
with
that.
explosions. Don't forget, lots of action. Yes.
I really think Rich did a lot of background research when he put this stuff together. My undergrad's history as well. So, kind of interested in the book already. I mean, I read the tagline earlier, and I was like, well, if you bring your history background with it, is it set modern day, or is it set in Canada?
Oh, modern day.
Okay.
I'm good, but I'm not that good. I'm not going to go into 40s slang.
Yeah, that's the only problem with that kind of stuff.
Exactly. I'm not half as good as, well, Georgette Heyer. Sorry, we just left the panel on Georgette Heyer, and, David Weber and Tony Weisskopf and Jody Libni and Sarah Hoyt saying, "Ooh, she's great! Look at her!" It's like, okay, fine. We believe you. You don't have to sell us our books anymore. Anyway, but no, this one was my foray into empire romance, and it was going to be a throwaway book. And I gave it to a publisher called Damnation Press. And they said, "Oh yeah, sure, we'll take it." Okay, sure, whatever. And got published, and then it wound up on second place for best novel in Sad Puppies 4.
Really?
Really.
Wow.
It's like, wait, hold on, I almost put out John C. Wright? How does this work? Answer, you have people show up. Well, I could start from chapter 1, page 1, or just in
Actually, I was thinking you could start where the date starts.
Okay. I did 18 pages in 45 minutes. Oh, yes. Leave. Yeah. After 2 college students leave a fencing class, Marco, now dressed in a full suit and tie, and Amanda, dressed in her usual sweater and jeans, looked like an odd couple as they emerged from the basement-level gym where the fencing club had been vanished to after an incident involving a rapier and the car of the university president. "Shall we stay to the left, in the shade of the trees?" he asked. "Why? Are you allergic to the sun?" Marco's smile of amusement turned into a smirk, even though not a single muscle in his face moved. "I'm actually assuming that your white Russian skin is sensitive, otherwise you wouldn't bother with all that suntan lotion." "You do not exactly tan either for someone who is Italian." "You mean Catalano? The family is from northern Italy and close to Switzerland, and especially close to Celtic raiders who popped in and out of the area a lot back in the old days." "That's interesting. That old, Sure, that's why I'm a freak." I didn't say you are a freak." He gave her a sad smile. "You didn't, but I have been hearing that on and off for, well, a very long time. I might as well be a local vampire." "I thought that they were all the rage nowadays." "Mainly because no one ever thinks about it." "About what?" "Vampires. That would be odd, considering that there seems to be 100 variations on the theme." "Yes, but nothing coherent. Forget the mythology. At least they have a lot of commonality. But the modern stuff, that." She stopped and took a seat. "So, tell me your thoughts." "Why? It's just vampires." "I want to see how your mind works." Slowly, it was WD-40. "Well, vampires. On the one end, you have the original mythology. Even in the Middle East with the ghoul, their name for a vampire, singular, they were a type of undead, possibly demon spawn. They survived by drinking blood and had the ability to shapeshift. They also hung out in cemeteries. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? When you get to the European version, they could be repelled by crosses and sunlight and stakes, that sort of thing. Those stories, at least partially, take into account the existence of free will." "Free will?" Think about it. Almost every traditional vampire in fiction is evil, automatically and with little in the way of reservation. Turn a good human being into a vampire, and they're automatically not much better than your average rabid dog. In the original novel, aside from Dracula and his 3 girlfriends in the basement, there was only one other vampire. That was Lucy, girlfriend of Nina Harker. As a new vampire, she could have been easily controlled or feral or what have you. Now the original Vlad the Impaler, who inspired the fictional Dracula, was not a nice fellow. Take that how you will want. When you get into the more recent novels, everything becomes a mishmash, usually with bad metaphysics. Laurel K. Hamilton is one of the worst offenders. Practically everything she does is conditional. You know, vampires are dead during the day, unless it's a powerful vampire, which depends on a whole bunch of factors I'm not even totally certain of. We won't even get into the porn. He paused, smiled. Sorry, I overthink it sometimes, hence the freak portion. I do not agree. You are intense, but not freakish. I'm a freak who reads too many books. I don't sleep with everything that has a skirt, especially since I go to school near Greenwich Village. I live in Brooklyn and don't sound like Tony Danza. I can go on forever. Don't worry, those things do not make you freakish, she said, patting his shoulder. Marco looked at her hand on his shoulder for a long moment. For a long moment, Amanda wondered if she had done something culturally objectionable, and then he rolled his eyes. And don't worry, I'll be happy to be your friend. What? I find you attractive. I perceive signs of flirting. But I screw that up so often, that means you just want to be friends. That works for me. Amanda said nothing for a long moment. She realized she was staring at Marco again, more than she had at any other person before. He was also the first man in a very long time to get close to her and not try to get into her pants. Most women in her position almost seemed inclined to take that lack of interest as a challenge, as though if he didn't want her, she must make him want her. In many ways, she was glad she wasn't with women. In the long run, his attitude was probably for the best anyway. I'll take it. She leaned over, kissed him on the cheek, and looked out over the sky. There was little sun left. Sundown. Do we have to get you home before you turn into a pumpkin? No. My parents trust me, the poor fools. Why do you ask? I wanted to know how much time you have. All the time in the world. Chapter 2. Always date inside your species. Okay. Gotta talk faster. Amanda opened the door to her apartment, and Amanda watched her walk inside. He didn't immediately follow. She stopped a little past the threshold and looked back over her shoulder. Not coming. He frowned in thought, as though being invited into a woman's apartment was the first warning sign of some sort of trap. You may come in. Don't worry. I don't bite. Much. Marco stepped forward, more at ease now with the invitation. Yes, but you don't know if I do. I doubt it. Besides, I think I can handle you if I need to. Okay. Nice place. Rather small for a family, isn't it? There's just me. Only me. For a long time. I'm a little older than I look. Ah, understood. I'm guessing you don't have many parties. Nor friends. Marco blinked and looked over her one more time before moving to examine a red Van Gogh reproduction on the wall. It looked similar to a scene from A Night on Bald Mountain, but with the Milky Way galaxy in the background. Not bloody likely. You're sweet, but it's true. Men are mostly interested in things other than friendship, and women are jealous, he said, not looking away from the painting, still smiling. Ah, poor Vincent. If only someone had better stitches and found your ear in time, or had better psychoactive breath. Amanda shrugged. I suppose it is the easy answer, and the one best held on to. Marco nodded again, glancing around once more. I find it interesting that you managed to hold on to a place on the Upper East Side while going to college with no other means of support. I have money. I have a scholarship as well. Ditto on the scholarship. He moved to a print of a Hubble telescope capture, though in my case they weren't sure which one to give me. You are that smart. I am multi-talented. That's an advantage of having this trivia stuck up here. However, I'm not sure what I'm doing here. I came because I like you. Also, you're one of the few people who seem to tolerate my intensity? Bluntness. You are here for much the same reason. You're the first person I brought home in a long time. He gave a short, medieval little bow. I'm honored. I assume that all this bringing me here is part all because of my friend Let's Be Friends lecture? More or less. I must give that one more often. I've never had this reply before. Friends, then, should be fun. Okay, this is now 9:15. Should I let you take a whack? Or should I just keep going?
Get to the action bit.
Okay. I can skip there.
You should have been in here 10 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Journey to Brooklyn, they decide your species, bias. Welcome to beautiful downtown Greenpoint, or as the locals have called it for the last 70 years, Green Perch. Marco just stood out over the water of the East River at the section called Turtle Bay. Across the street was the UN, along with the rest of the New York skyline. Despite all of the grief Brooklynites receive, there are some advantages to the area. Some nice sights. Ignore most of the rumors of mafia activity. We haven't had those sorts of problems since at least the 80s, not around here anyway. Amanda gave a deep, happy sigh as she looped his left arm with her right and brought them closer together. He was nice and warm and not so rock hard with muscle that he was uncomfortable to hold on to. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Thank you, Marco. It has been quite some time since I have gone out and enjoyed myself. My pleasure, madam. I hope that I've enjoyed it too. I must say that I've enjoyed it too. Amanda could feel his heart pumping faster. Was it merely her proximity, or was he intending to do something about it? And how do I feel about it? You, your money and your girlfriend. Marco wheeled right, and Amanda turned left. There were 4 men, and with a quick sweep of her eyes, Amanda caught a glimpse of 4 knives. I am single. She looked over the 4 of them. But Guidos like you are not what I enjoy playing with, so go away. You're not grunting enough, Marco said, his own eyes keeping track of 2 on his left. You also need to use phrases and quotes from Pacino and De Niro movies. Guido, number 1, sneered. Let's start with some money. Let's start with giving you a higher education, Marco said easily. We'll talk after that. I don't speak Guido. That's it. The knife guy took a step forward, raising his knife. Suddenly, Amanda was in front of Marco, taking the knife to the stomach. The knife wound was all the way to the hilt and lodged deep in Amanda's gut. He quickly diagnosed it as fatal without immediate medical attention. By immediate, he meant, right this minute, damn it! Marco took a step forward, ready to hold the knife in Amanda's stomach before it was pulled out and left the wound open. Doing that took his attention off of the other 2 losers behind him. One grabbed him by the shoulder and spun him around. Marco blocked with both arms as the attacker swung a knife right for his guts. Marco met the wrist of the knife hand with the blade of his forearm. His other arm came around in a roundhouse punch to the attacker's face. The fist clamped down on the same shoulder as the arm holding the knife. The arm that blocked the initial strike came up and around, wrapping the arm up in Marco's own. The wrist caught between top forearm and bicep. Holding him by both points, Marco drove his foot straight up into the attacker's groin, driving his genitals into his abdomen. He twisted his entire body around, bringing the thug with him, putting his body between him and the next attacker. He snapped the arm with a sharp rotation of his own body and grabbed the knife as it fell. The other guy tried to leap over his comrade. Marco sidestepped the blade, and the attacker tripped over the disabled knifeman. Before he could get off the concrete, Marco stomped down on the back of his head, bouncing it off the sidewalk. Marco spun around, ready to dispose of the other 2 and get Amanda to a hospital when he stopped in his tracks. Amanda had already disposed of them, and was disposing of the other. Her mouth clamped down on his throat. A trickle of blood ran down the man's neck. What the? This was the only reaction Marco could manage before Amanda whirled on him too, and everything went black. When Marco Catalano awoke, he had some serious issues. Being bound and gagged wasn't that bad. He could handle that. The problem was that the knots were well tied all around. That was the annoying part. Granted, it would have been easier if he was in a room, held hostage in a building. Unfortunately, he was on a roof with no visible access, short of climbing the side of the building. That was common with older buildings in Brooklyn built before roof access was required so repairmen could deal with the HVAC systems. That was disturbing. Marco replayed the final images before the world went black. The conclusions to be reached were not encouraging. He rolled over from his shoulder onto his back. Sitting on the edge of the roof was Amanda, her nice sweater ruined with dark red stains and a hole in the stomach. If he didn't know better, he would have concluded she was crying. It was hard to tell in the dark. You're awake. Good. We need to talk. Check it out.
Got 5 more minutes.
Okay. Stop me when I get bored. Chapter 4. Dating Sucks. Amanda Colt was crying. She couldn't help it, really. The horror of that night's event had nothing to do with her being stabbed, or Marco Catalano's somewhat savage counters on 2 of their attackers, or that she had attacked 2 of the thugs, sucked their blood, and even bit Marco while nearly feral. The most horrific part of it was that the night was going so well. 20 years. She'd been alone for 20 years, not counting the men who had spent more time trying to get into her pants and trying to get to know her. She hadn't exactly been a social butterfly for the previous decades before that, either. Amanda faked normal so very well. Then she met Marco. Okay. Whether he had a mind like a computer or not, he could anticipate her to such an extent, not even her vampire reflexes were able to sneak past his fencing defenses. In fencing, of course, in fencing. Amanda, do you even believe that? Not really. Also, he actually cared about what she thought. The last time she had discovered someone like that, the guy was a Soviet spy and she had to eat him. Now so much work, so much effort, had all been undone by 2 mothers. Now it was going so well, she was even tempted to tell Marco, to explain to him what she was, and how that differed from all the vampire stuff the culture was subjected to. She had been so tempted. Now what? What could he do? Report her? Unfortunately, he had friends take a picture of her, and he could send it to anyone he liked. He could easily blow her cover as a vampire by posting her picture online, Facebook, YouTube. The internet would not be her friend. Things would only get worse from there. He was awake. You're awake. Good, we need to talk. Marco's extended silence spoke volumes, mostly 1,000 decibels of, no kidding. Amanda cocked her head, studying him a moment, much like she had during their normal conversations. You're not having the overreaction that I expected. Overreaction? He muttered through the gag. That was easy to expand to an entire thought. Is there a way to overreact to this sort of thing? Ah, I suppose you're right. Marco sighed and rubbed his face against the roof, trying to get the tape off his mouth. Stop that. I will get it if you promise not to bite. Poor choice of words. When she pulled the tape off his mouth, Marco's first words were, you wouldn't have caught me if I were aware that you were a vampire. You cheated. That is it? Your complaint is plain, fair. I have tried to not say this, but while I am a little crazy, I'm a genius-level crazy. I'm smarter than Wile E. Coyote, and I can make my own Acme devices from scratch. Obviously, you're not going to eat me. You've had plenty of chances before now, but you chose to subdue me after I noticed you eating your attacker. I figure I'm safe, unless you've decided that knowing is enough to get me killed. And if that were the case, I think I'd be dead already. So, if the remaining discussion consists of whether or not I could keep your secret, my reply is, who would I tell? She stared in wonder for a moment. His voice was calm and matter-of-fact. He wasn't scared. He was annoyed. You are remarkably calm. You know what a secondary sociopath is. Sociopath under certain conditions, like natural disasters and soccer games. Right. I've always suspected I'm some flavor of sociopath, which explains a lot. Now, I can be untied and we can have this conversation somewhere else, or you can let me sleep and I'll find my own way down in the morning. Pull on the ropes, hard. Marco did as hard as possible. The ropes snapped. He pulled his hands in front of him, stared at his former bonds as they dangled from his wrists. The bonds were the thick rope one would find on boats. Well, that's a cute trick. You better not have turned me into a vampire while I was sleeping. Otherwise, we really will have to have a talk. possibly with sharp objects. I had promised you can work on your tan in the morning. He held up his hands, palms toward him, like he ever tanned well in the first place. This is true, but you have an option. Okay, 9:25. I can keep going if you want me to.
That's good.
I'll sit and selling them for $10. Cheaper than Amazon.
That's the sales pitch. Get Len to get some